Okay, we need to clear up some misconceptions about the continuing resolution, the bill that was passed yesterday to keep the government open for a few months. One of the rumors that is floating around that is false is that it included $3 billion for a new Washington Commanders football stadium. That is false. Senate passes separate RFK Stadium site bill after removal from federal spending bill. The U.S. Senate has passed a bill granting control of the old RFK Stadium site to the District of Columbia, a last minute passage that helps clear the way for the Washington Commanders to potentially move back to the city. The passage early Saturday comes after a provision to transfer control of the land from the federal government to D.C. was removed from Congress's slimmed down short term spending bill as lawmakers raced to pass it before a government shutdown. Washington Commanders owner Josh Harris praised the passage, saying in a statement, "We are extremely grateful that our elected officials have come together on a bipartisan basis to give Washington, D.C. the opportunity to decide on the future of the RFK Stadium site. This bill will create an even playing field so that all potential future locations for the home of the Washington Commanders can be fairly considered and give our franchise the opportunity to provide the best experience for all of our fans." The Commanders are considering locations in the district, Maryland, and Virginia to build a new stadium in the coming years. Their lease at Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland runs through 2027, and Harris called 2030 a reasonable target for a new one. The team played at RFK Stadium 2 miles east of the Capitol from 1961 to 1996 before moving to Maryland. Harris and several co-owners, including Mitch Rales and Mark Ein, grew up as Washington football fans during that era, which includes the glory days of 3 Super Bowl championships between 1982 and 1981. The bill will transfer administrative jurisdiction of the RFK site from the Secretary of the Interior to the D.C. government. While the federal government will still own the land, D.C. will be able to develop the land for a stadium, commercial and residential development, and other public purposes, according to the office of U.S. Representative James Comer of Kentucky, who introduced the bill. The Senate's passage of the D.C. RFK Stadium Campus Revitalization Act is a historic moment for our nation's capital, Comer said in a statement Saturday. If Congress failed to act today, this decaying land in Washington would continue to cost taxpayers a fortune to maintain. Revitalizing this RFK Memorial Stadium site has been a top economic priority for the city, and I am proud to have partnered with D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to get this bill across the finish line and to the president's desk. No. There is no $3 billion in this bill for the Washington Commanders to build a new stadium. They just want the option of being able to come back to Washington, D.C. to build a stadium, potentially on the site of the original RFK Stadium. And this bill gave D.C. the power to do that because that site is owned by the federal government. That's all this was. Now, that is not to say that there isn't going to be a fight down the road when some billionaire owner asks for some taxpayer money to help build his stadium, something I am steadfastly against across the board. I'm in favor of municipalities working with and even giving tax breaks to NFL owners in order to incentivize them to stay in a location. But if you want to build a new stadium, you build it. Like here in the Chicagoland area, the Chicago Bears are looking to build a new stadium. Either it's going to be in the suburbs of Arlington Heights, potentially down near Naperville, or right in the city of Chicago, next to where Soldier Field sits. Fine. And don't have a problem with any of those sites. Don't have a problem with any of those locations. But if you want the stadium, you build the stadium. You are a fucking billionaire. And you make billions of dollars off of the team. You can build your own stadium. Same goes in Washington. But no, this bill did not give $3 billion to build a stadium. It just gave Washington, D.C. the ability to lure the team back into Washington, D.C. by saying, okay, we can now develop this land that is technically owned by the federal government, which may end up being a deciding factor. We don't know yet.